What's up, everybody out there in internet land? Oh my God, sometimes it's just this automated program response that I have, and I laugh at it. Uh, Welcome to Brother Motion's channel, coming to you live from the Man Cave. And we're going to call this Guy on the Couch Productions with a glass of wine. So before I get started, time to wet the whistle. We're going to title this one, Don't Practice Witchcraft, Part 2. In case you don't know French, that's 2. Time to take a toke. Here is yet another reason to not practice witchcraft. First of all, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's not mine. You can watch a whole bunch of conspiracy theorists online, and eventually you'll hear that statement. That's where I get it from, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. I think that human beings should only have a certain amount of power, and I think that power can corrupt even the most moral of men. And when I say men, I mean mankind, and when I say mankind, I mean male and female alike. Now, you might cast spells on atheists and be successful. You might pass spells on agnostics and be successful. On pagans, on Satanists, on New Agers, on Jews, on Christians. But see, there's one type that when you do that, you've laid the gauntlet down, and they know, and they're going to bring the fight right back to you. And what's going to happen to you as the witch, the warlock, the santero, the santera, the witch, the Wiccan, and everyone says, Wiccans. I've dealt with a couple of Wiccans. And you know what? If you disagree with them enough and you piss them off enough, they will use whatever knowledge they know, and a lot of them will try and mess with you. And even Wiccans that don't do that, again, you saw the previous video, even though you cast some spell that is good, you're violating natural law, and things are going to happen that would have never happened, and they're negative. They're not positive. My belief, you don't have to believe what I believe in, and if you disagree, we can agree to disagree. Why do I have to say that? Like, I feel like I'm in this PC culture sometimes, and I feel like I have to say that on a video in order to get my point across, and I'm not going to change it, because videos that I do like this, I try to do it for, the masses, as many people that can hear it. I try not to be too offensive. Because I kind of already know once people get a little peeved and they don't like what they hear, they shut it off. I'm a different type, and I'm not perfect at it. But if I hear something I don't like, I usually kind of understand that maybe there's a reason why I don't like it, and I owe it to myself just to shut the hell up, open my ears, shut my mouth, put it in my back pocket. Maybe it'll mean something to me a year from now, 6 months from now, 10 years from now. It's kind of like what my mother used to always say. Take the good, leave the bad. Very hard to follow. But I found that it suits me quite well in life. Time to wet the whistle. Okay, wow, I'm on a roll. 4 videos tonight. Okay. That one story I was telling in the last video I made about witchcraft. Before I had my experience, and it was on my channel. I spoke to it. I spoke about it a lot before I had a hack problem, and I deleted a lot of videos, and I started from scratch with this particular witch. She had given me a book on astrology. I think it was the beginner's package to witchcraft. And I went to a Pentecostal church in upstate New York, Carmel, New York. It was a Assembly of God church. And I'm not saying you should go, and I'm not saying you shouldn't go. I'm just telling my experience. I went, and that very same Sunday, without even picking up the Bible and reading it, after I had my experience, I knew that these books were kind of no good. I shouldn't have them. And I didn't need them anymore. This is what, to the lay person, this is what a believer would call the Holy Spirit speaking to you. And I went home, and I prayed and I meditated for about 2-3 days, and not no just to keep it very simple. Prayer is asking a question, and meditation is listening for an answer. Sometimes the answer comes to you when you're very quiet in your room, and sometimes God sends people, and then sometimes God gives you experiences. You know, a lot of times when believers say they've got a message from God, sometimes it isn't always hearing a voice. It's just life circumstances and people and other things, and it's like you take 1 and 1 and you make 2. And I wish some of you would just be very forthcoming with that. And I knew these books weren't something that I should have. So I went back to her and knocked on her door, and her mother, that was a high priestess of a coven, I gave them back to her, and the daughter was there, and they looked at me, no, these are for you. And I'm like, well, you know what? And I was just very honest. I went to church, I had this experience, and this is not the path I'm trying to go on. I was like, I'm not trying to judge who you are or what you do, but I don't need this. And the spiritual attacks came on. And all I needed to do, and all I knew how to do at that time, and I was consulting people within the church, was to pray to have their spells shut down. And the spiritual warfare continued for about a month and a half. And I used to, at night, before I went to bed, I would walk to in front of the co-op, and I would stand there and hold my hands up to the sky, because that's all I really knew how to do at the time, and pray right in front of their co-op. And I remember one time she had a friend that came to the house, and I was outside smoking a cigarette at the time, and it was I think a female and 2 males, all dressed in black and white, and I guess it was my own intuition, the Holy Spirit speaking to me, whatever you want to call it. I knew they were doing things, and I placed my hand on her friend's car, and I prayed over it, and I went back upstairs, and I think a half hour to 45 minutes later, she called me, and what are you doing? And that person's a Wiccan, and you can't be doing that. And And I'm like, I just was, I was actually a blessing to be healthy and safe and, not to practice such things. And she took huge offense to it. That car stayed in that spot for over 7 days. Person wouldn't touch it. They had to do rituals or whatever they did. If that doesn't tell you what type of power a believer in the Messiah has, I don't know what else to tell you. And I could tell you over the course of this month and a half to 2 months that I was doing this spiritual warfare. This is the first time I had ever dealt with a witch and knew exactly what the ramifications were, and I was doing spiritual warfare was. The mother got real sick. She started to walking around the neighborhood real hunched over. She was pale white. She didn't look good. Her daughter started to put on weight. She didn't look healthy. She didn't look good. This is yet another reason. See, you may cast all the spells you want, and you may be able to infiltrate a particular church and particular people, but there are certain people within the body. And when I say the body, or when I say the church, I do not believe the body or the church is a building. It doesn't have a pastor. It just means a believer. There are certain ones of us that we've been given the gift of being a spiritual warrior. And I don't say that in order to feel special. It's just my own particular path that I've been given. And I've dealt with witches and spiritual types of things before I even became a believer. And it's so hard to do this spiritual warfare as a witch, because you need to gather stuff, and a witch that wants to do you harm will never tell you she's a witch, because she wants to get into your house. She needs personal belongings that you have in order to give her spells more power. She'll make you food and put all kinds of disgusting things in that food for you to eat it. I don't know everything, and no one does. I don't care how experienced you are. No one truly knows how this stuff works, really. We can have an idea, we can theorize, but all I can tell you was they won some battles, but I won the war, because they have to do such things that take so much energy, when all I have to do is pray, speak a couple of words. And sometimes under spiritual attack, you can't speak, but you have your mind, and you can pray within your mind. And I watched these witches get deathly ill and start to suffer a lot in their life, when my life just kept getting better and better and better and better. When I'm not doing spiritual warfare, and I'm not angry, and I'm not frustrated, and I'm like, I've done nothing but try to help these people, and whatever it is, I've just tried to speak the truth, or I've tried to testify in a very nice way. And then this stuff starts coming your way, and you're forced to be this warrior. I actually feel sorry for you. The basic psychology of a witch is a woman or a person that feels very insecure, has very low self-esteem. They don't feel that they can gather things, and they have no personal power or any sort of empowerment. So I feel they need to do this in order to feel that. And I actually feel sorry for people that in that manner. So I did what I did for a career for over 15 years, and I was a counselor. Again, heed my warning. Don't practice witchcraft. Love y'all. God bless.